He showed that as little as 2 minutes of exercise a week was enough to get the cardiovascular effects.
Is there such thing as a kind of a minimal amount that would still provide some great long-term benefits and would be a great starting point for most people?
Absolutely. And that's the key question. And so what people think is they think that, oh, I've got to go out and I've got to do these huge distances to have kind of endurance effects. And what a colleague of mine, Jamie Timmins, was from Glasgow. He actually ran for Scotland as a cross country runner. He actually did a few studies where he showed that as little as 2 minutes of exercise a week was enough to get the cardiovascular effects. But those 2 minutes of exercise would be kind of these sprint exercises where you could do sprint for 20 seconds on a bike usually. Go as hard as you can on a bike for 20 seconds. Then take a few minutes, just walk around and get on and do that again. And if you do that 3 times today, you do that 3 times Wednesday, you do that 3 times Monday, that's gonna be enough to get a lot of the cardiovascular and a lot of the health benefits from it. So as little as that much has a huge effect. So what we're trying to, understand and where we go wrong a lot of times is that when I say people should do resistance exercise, people look and they see, "Oh, there's this big muscly guy in the gym, and he spends an hour and a half in the gym, and he does on Mondays, he does his back and biceps, on Tuesdays, That's not what you have to do. So personally, I lift weights twice a week. I do each time I lift weights, I do my whole body, and it takes me about 20 minutes to do that. So what we have to understand is that we don't have to do things the way it's written. Most of what is complicated about exercise is intentionally made complicated by people who want to make money. I am a professor. What that means is that I am very bad at making money. And so instead of going out and being able to tell you, if you send me, your large check, I will give you this secret to exercise. Instead, I tell you what the basic principle is. If I want to get a bigger muscle, all I have to do is do anything, but keep doing it until I can't do it anymore. It's called going to failure. I tell my students that the gym is the only place on campus where the goal is to fail. Because if you fail in the gym, if you are doing, say, a pressing movement or like a push up off your desk, and you get to the point where that last one you can't push it up anymore, that's all you have to do. And so all you have to do is say, you know what? The important movements are for me are to be able to do a squat. So that means I want to be able to squat down so I can pick things up off the ground. So what you can do is you can go and you get like Tesco bags and you fill them up with say some water bottles or some cans and now I've got a little bit of weight because it's usually too easy just to squat up and down. And because it's easier to do it as two legs, what I'll do is maybe instead of doing a squat, I'll do a lunge. So I'll put one leg in the front, one leg in the back. I'll have my little Tesco bags and I will just go up and down until I can't go up anymore. And now what I've done is I've done the same incredible exercise for my quad. My quad and my glute on the one side that's forward, that's doing all the work, it doesn't know that I didn't use a $10,000 machine to do that. I have just done everything I need to do for that leg. I don't have to do any more sets. So when I go into the gym, I push until I can't lift anymore. That's all I'm going to do for that exercise. I'm not going to do another set because that would say that I have to wait. I'm going to rest. I'm going to do another set. Building our muscles is a lot like squeezing water out of a towel. This is an analogy that my colleague Stu Phillips came up with. Basically, you squeeze the water out of the towel. The first time you squeeze the water out of the towel, tons of water comes out. The second time you do it, you might be getting a couple of drops, and you have to work a lot harder to get those couple of drops. That's the same thing when we exercise. If I can go to the point where I can't lift the weight anymore because I've doing push-ups against my desk, and if I can do lots of them, then maybe it's not hard enough for me, and maybe I'll use a bench or I'll go down onto the ground on my knees or you don't have to do a special machine. There doesn't have to be, you just need to do a movement that you think is important. So for us, we want to push, we want to pull, we want to push above our heads, and we want to pull down from above our heads. If we can do anything that does that, Now we're in really good shape. And I can use a band, I can use Tesco bags, I can use whatever I have, or I can use a big fancy machine. I'm lucky, I have big fancy machines, I understand that. But for everybody else, we can just do it. I used to do it with a band. I would pull down, I'd just sit on the floor, put the band around the top of the door, and I'm just gonna pull down. And I'm gonna keep pulling down until the last one I'm trying to pull down, and then I can't pull it down. I've gotten to failure. The reason that failure is important is just like when we're exercising, we only use the bigger muscle fibers when we're going faster. The other time that we use the big muscle fibers is when we get to failure. So when all the smaller muscle fibers have worked, but they got tired, now the big ones have to come in and try and do the movement. When I do that, now what happens is that all of the muscles within all of the fibers within the muscle have gotten the signal that they need to get bigger and stronger.